Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome you all to Fahm Al Qura'N. Inshallah, we'll continue with Juz 5, Wal Muhsanat. Let's continue. This is Fahm Al Qura'N English. We are doing in 2 or 3 parts, and each part is about 45 or 50 minutes or less. So here it starts with Wal Muhsanatu Minan Nisa'i illa ma malakat aymanukum. And prohibited to you for marriage are all married women except those that your right hand possesses. Kitab Allahi alaykum. This is the decree of Allah upon you. So in the previous ayahs at the end of 4 juz we learn about those women who are prohibited for marriage. And among them are who? The women who are related to a man through blood. So, for example, mother, daughter, sister, and so on and so forth. And now over here, we learn that all married women, that if a woman is already married, then another man cannot marry her, right? This is something that is not permissible in Sharia. And if marriage is not permissible with her, then that means that having relationship, sexually relations are also not possible and not permissible with the woman who is married. Then does it mean that with a single woman it is permissible? No. Haram, it's a zina. But especially in case where a woman is married, then this is something that is worse. Which is why for a married person, the punishment of zina is much more severe. So also prohibited to you for marriage are all married women except those that your right hand possesses, meaning those women that fall as captive women, because captivity is something that annuls the nikah, and over here this is an exceptional situation that need not be explained at this time. This is the decree of Allah upon you, meaning this is something that Allah has decided for you, so accept it. And lawful for you all, meaning unlawful to you are all other women. Beyond this, provided that you see them in knowledge with gifts from your property, desiring chastity and not unlawful sexual intercourse. We have to remember that. So here chastity is so important, meaning establish relations with nikah, not outside of nikah. So whatever you enjoy of marriage from them, meaning whenever a man marries a woman. So here we see whenever a man marries a woman. So here we see when does he have to do, he must give them their due compensation as an obligation, meaning he must give meher. Why is it that the man has to give meher to the woman at the time of marriage, not the other way around? Because we see that man has been given the responsibility over the family. He has been made the qawwam, and he has been given the financial burden also. So he has to take the responsibility of the woman, and that begins from the moment of nikah. At the time of nikah, he is asked to spend on her. Then what does it mean that after nikah he doesn't have to spend on her? No, no, no. He does have to spend on her. He has to take care of her needs. And there is no blame upon you for what you mutually agreed to do beyond the obligation. Indeed, Allah is ever knowing and wise. We see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in man, in human being, many desires, which are on one hand a source of pleasure for a person, but at the same time they are also a big test. Food, drink, these are all natural desire, and just as for food and drink, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a certain limit, certain guidelines, that is the correct way of fulfilling your desires. When it's come to eating and drinking, likewise, when it comes to sexual desire, which is also a natural desire, which Allah has created in people, we see that there are certain guidelines that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to human beings that they must observe when fulfilling this natural desires. A person cannot say that Allah has placed the sexual desire in me so I can fulfill it however I want. No. Just as when it comes to food and drink, we eat what Allah has made permissible, halal. We drink what Allah has made permissible, halal. Likewise, when it comes to sexual desire also, it may only be fulfilled in the way that Allah has legislated. A person must remain within the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. Now, first and foremost, we see that between a man and woman, the only permissible way of fulfilling desire, fulfilling sexual desire, is through the bond of nikah. Because we see over here al muhsanatu, meaning when you marry woman, then fankihu, then marry the woman. So here we see there is no such thing like living relationship. That is completely banned, that is haram, that is forbidden. أن تتب أن تبتغوا بأموالكم محسنين غير مسافهين. What is mean by muhsinina is that you must fortify yourself in the bond of marriage. That a person must not go on fulfilling his sexual desire with whomsoever he pleases or she pleases. No, this must be done in the bond of nikah. And what is nikah? Nikah is the official social contract in which two people, man and woman, are made halal for each other. Like underline man and woman. It's not like man and man, woman and woman. No, there is no such thing in Islam. And this is official contract is made how? By making Allah a witness. By making people a witness that these people, these two people, man and woman, these two are coming together in bond of marriage. They make Allah a witness and the people also are a witness to that contract. And why is this done? Why is it that this contract has to be publicized? Because it's hidden. Nikah is something that should not be done like, nikah is something that should be publicized. Why? Because this is an announcement, it's a declaration that two are now going to live as husband and wife, fulfilling their obligation, fulfilling their duties to one another so that both can live in harmony and peace. So a Muslim family may come about, and when people are at peace at home, only then can there be peace and harmony in society. So we see that this relationship has been made sacred through a bond of marriage in order to preserve the sanctity of Muslim society in general. So we see on the one hand nikah allows fulfillment of desire, and the other hand it also brings a sanctity to family bonds. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ مِنْكُمْ طَوْلًا, and whoever among you cannot find the means to marry free believing women, because we see in previous ayahs men have been ordered to give the meher to women at the time of marriage. We learned earlier that if a man marries a woman, he sets her meher, but he intends never to give it to her, then he will appear before Allah as a zani, as a fornicator. So we see that what makes marriage nikah different from zina is the fact that a man is taking responsibility. How is he taking responsibility of the woman, of children? How? By spending on her. Now, why is it that man has been obliged to spend? Because if you think about it, when it comes to sexual desire, generally it is the man who has more of this desire compared to woman, but not always. So the man is obligated to spend on woman while taking responsibility of her, that he will take the responsibility, like, this relationship seriously. Because when it comes to relationship, a man has nothing to lose. In fact, he only gains pleasure. A woman, on the other hand, is putting herself in a very vulnerable situation. She could become pregnant. That's the main reason for getting married, right? And she's losing her virginity. So, in that case, the man has to take responsibility of her. And this is the halal means getting married and having a relationship. Allah has given that opportunity, and how He is going to take responsibility of her by spending on her. Also, by making Allah a witness, by making people a witness, by entering into the bond of marriage, which is called nikah. So whoever among you cannot find the means to marry free believing women, if a man cannot afford to give meher, then what should he do? Then he may marry from those whom your right hand possesses of believing slave women. Meaning, if he cannot afford a free woman. In what sense? That he cannot bring a good enough meher for her. He does not have the mean to give her a decent amount of meher at the time of marriage. Then what can he do? He can marry a slave woman. How? That he will give her meher. Of course, he has to give the meher, will be much less compared to the meher of the free woman, given the difference in the social status. But the condition is that slave woman must be believing woman, momina. And Allah is most knowing about your faith. Your believers are of one another. So don't feel bad about marrying a slave, because what makes both of you equal is your faith, iman, despite the huge difference in the social status. So marry them with the permission of their people, meaning marry the slave woman how with the permission of her master, and give them their due compensation according to what is acceptable. Meaning, if a slave woman, if a free man is marrying her, then it is not allowed for him to not give her any meher. No, he has to give her some meher, even if it be something very small. But he has to give her something. Why? Because he has to take this marriage seriously. They should be chaste, neither of those who commit unlawful intercourse randomly, nor those who take secret lovers. But once they are sheltered in marriage, if they should commit adultery, then for them is half the punishment for the free woman, meaning a slave woman after marriage. If she doesn't end up committing zina, then her punishment is less. Why? Because her background is different. Her social status is different. She did zina, but her status is different, her background is different, so punishment will be different. This allowance is for him. Which allowance here? Allowance to marry a slave woman. This allowance is for which woman? The one who among you fears sins. What sin? The sin of zina, meaning he is afraid that if he does not get married, then he will commit zina. He will commit haram. So an option is given to him that you marry a slave woman. You understand? A person can't deny certain desires you have, whether a man or a woman. This is, normal thing. How you eat your food, the same way like sexual desires, man or a woman. And in this society these days, you can't say only men has this. No, even the woman, because we are normal human beings. Comparatively, men can have more than women, but we all do. So what we learn, no matter what, we have to do marriage. Marriage is the only bond, whether you get married to a slave man or a slave woman, but they should be momin or momina. They should be believer. But better to get married instead of having the haram relationship. What we learn from this, that a person must not rush into marriage. Marriage is something that is a part of our religion. Definitely part of our religion. In Surah An-Nur also says that وَأَنْكِحُوا Aima minkum, means that a single person must among you get them married. However, what we see here, that a person must not rush into marriage. He must first of all means to afford marriage, and afford marriage is not mean that a person must be able to throw a huge wedding party or afford an expensive dress and spend extravagantly, like israf. No, he must have means to provide meher for the wife, first of all. And secondly, take the financial responsibility of looking after her for the rest of his life and taking care of family. Also, after this point onwards, if a person does not find this means, then what should he do? Allah says. So these are the things, like, financially sound and, arranging the meher. But don't look for the means, if you have this much money job or this much meher. No. If you have normal job, you have normal things you can give in meher, even the small thing also. It doesn't mean, like, depending on your status. Don't go for hi-fi, because marriage is like, need. And when you have your companion, life is very easy for you. And the next thing, marriage is for having family, children. And but marriages are appreciated always because you are away from haram. So you have to take care of this matter very seriously. وَأَن تَصْبِرُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. If you are patient, that is better for you. You're not able to get married, you don't have any means, maybe you're financially very weak, or you have some health issues, or you have more responsibility in your family. Sometimes it happens, if they have more girls, the elder girls, they don't get married and they arrange for the younger ones. And same thing, if boys are elder and parents, they enforce them not to get married and get others responsibility first, like, they have to keep themselves chaste, not getting married, and they have to fulfill their responsibility. Like, some, they are in 40s and 50s, they're still not getting married because they are enforced by their elders, their parents. They are emotionally enforced. So that time, wa an tasbiru khairul lakum, then have patience, because don't look for the haram means. Meaning, an option is given here that a person may marry a slave woman. However, for a free man to marry a slave woman, given the huge difference in their social status, and also given the huge difference in the background, and also the compatibility issues, both will not be very much compatible. Even though both will be believers, but because their backgrounds are different, both will find it difficult to live with each other in peace and harmony. That is why Allah says, "An tasbiru khairul lakum." So this teaches us that marriage is not just but fulfillment of desire. What matter is compatibility between man and woman. Both must be compatible. You know, Marriage is like a one-time thing. And if you're getting married, you have to look for it. When, as I mentioned, like, you're getting married to a slave woman, or a girl is marrying to a slave man. Backgrounds are different. And you remember when Bani Israel, they rescued, but still they had that slavery mind. Minds will be different. Compatibility is really hard. It's not easy thing, though, even though you have same iman level, but those who can manage, they have to have sabr. But Allah says, if you're not getting married, then do sabr for it. Wan tasbih khairul lakum. But if you get married, how about, like, you need time for compatibility, for adjusting the marriage. Take some time. There's nothing wrong in it. And Allah is forgiving and merciful, meaning He knows your struggle. So while you are waiting for the right spouse, it doesn't mean you wait for Prince Charming. It doesn't mean you wait for Hurul Ain. No, it means that until you find a most suitable option, you're waiting for that time, and you're looking, you're trying to afford the means to get married. Then during that time, remember that Allah is forgiving and merciful. He understands your struggle. He knows your struggle, because many times it happens that for men and for women, when they cannot find a suitable spouse, it becomes difficult for them. It doesn't mean that a person must go into haram, but constantly they are fighting a battle in a battle against their own desires, or against negative thinking, or against feeling hopeless, or feeling that there is no hope for their marriage. So when a person is constantly struggling, against themselves with respect to marriage, then remember that Allah is forgiving and merciful. Now, this ayah, what does it teach us? That first of all, when a person wishes to fulfill their sexual desire, they must do so with the responsibility. What is that? By entering into bond of marriage. That is nikah. This is both for men and women. When it comes to getting married, we see that first and foremost priority should be iman of the other person, the faith of the other person, meaning the social status that even may be compromised, that a man is told, go marry a slave woman, but iman must not be compromised. And here, what we learn from this ayah, marriage is a part of the life. You can't ignore it. If you delay it, it is quite possible you can fall into haram. And Allah said, Tasbiru wa khairul lakum. But if you do sabr, if you have patience, what if you can't do sabr? You know, there are so many things going on that is haram things. Sometimes, boys, they have friends that they say, oh, there's nothing wrong, you can have living relationship. There are girls which they have a friendship with the boys, and they invite for the haram, and they slip into the haram, because it's quite possible shaitan is open enemy, and it's quite possible they can fall into haram pit. And girl and a boy, there are certain age for the marriage, and we are keep on ignoring that. We can't ignore this because we are allowing them to enter into haram. And look at the people, if they get married soon, like, early 20s, mid 20s, that would be nice. But people, they're ignoring, like, mid 20s past, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s now. They're not getting married. Definitely they will fall into haram. Either by haram means by looking the desires they have more, or actually doing it. You understand? These are all haram means. These are the avenues of haram. We have to restrict ourselves. The only halal mean is the bond of marriage. And iman is the thing which you go for marriage, not a non-Muslim. No. Iman. Prophet ﷺ said a woman is married for four things: her wealth, her family status, her beauty, her religion. So you should marry the religious woman, otherwise you will be a loser. So this goes for a woman as well as for men, meaning a woman also, when she is looking for a suitable spouse for a husband, then what is it that she must give priority to? Deen. Why? Because if the two wish to live happily, then deen must be priority for both of them. If a woman is religious, but the husband does not believe in Allah, then what will happen? He does not pray at all. Then how can a woman live in this marriage? How can she find peace in the marriage? How can she find love in the marriage? When a person whom she with does not love the whom she loves, he does not love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not believe in Allah, he rejects Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can there be a peace in this union? So this is why iman for a believer is utmost important when it comes to marriage. So then we also see over here in this ayah that it is not permissible for a woman and men to be the lovers without nikah. Because over here we see that they should be muhsanat, women through the bond of marriage. They should be muhsanatin ghayra musafihatin wala tukhdi'ati akhadan, meaning sexual relationship should not be established outside of the bond of marriage. There is no concept of a woman and men merely being lovers for one another. No. The only permissible way through nikah, and the best thing that can happen between two people who love each other, is in fact nikah. It is nikah, it's a marriage. We see that in order to avoid zina, in order to avoid the possibility of a man and woman falling in love with each other and then committing zina, committing haram, we see that anything that leads to zina also been forbidden, haram. For instance, we learn Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, narrate that Prophet ﷺ said, behold, a man is alone with a woman, but the third of them is shaitan. So man and woman, unrelated, man and woman. And when they are going to be alone, who is going to be the third? Shaitan. So we must take this matter very seriously and watch ourselves that never at any point in time should we sitting with non-mahram man at the table all by ourselves so that we are having a private conversation. Third cannot listen. No, this is something that is not correct. Neither should be sitting in privacy, conversing in privacy, going somewhere with a non-mahram man in a car, at a restaurant. This is something that does not befit a Muslim man, nor does it befit a Muslim woman. And this is part of protecting ourselves, guarding ourselves, because no matter how much a person says, no, no, I am not thinking like this about that man, he's married, or no, I am married, it doesn't matter whether you are married or he is married. Shaitan is the third when two of you are alone. Therefore, a Muslim person must take this matter very seriously, especially, when you are doing the work for the cause of Allah in the deen, you have to be more vigilant, more cautious. Because what happens sometimes at certain areas, like you have that opportunity to be alone, but try to avoid those things because we want to close all the avenues, isn't it? Shaitan is an open enemy, and keep it shaitan as an open enemy. Prophet ﷺ said, he who believes in Allah and the last day must never be alone with a woman such that between him and her is no mahram. You understand? Like, there's a non-mahram and you are there alone talking or having conversation. No, third is the shaitan, meaning no third person, rather the two of them are alone. Two non-mahram, meaning a woman and a man who are not related, they are alone. This is something that does not befit a person who believes in Allah and the last day. In Hadith, we also learn that it is forbidden for a man to speak to unrelated women in their house without the approval of their husband. Meaning, this is something that's not permissible, that a man just goes into the house of his friend, he is not there, and who goes and chat with his wife for long hours, goes and have tea, coffee, dinner with her while the husband is away, while the children are gone. No, this is something that is not allowed for a Muslim man, nor is permissible for a Muslim woman. Even, husband own brother or your sister's husband, they are non-mahram, and we think, oh, we are calling him brother. No, they are not your brother. Only the blood related is your own brother. So you have to be careful with them. You can't sit them openly in privately and talking and chatting and having tea and dinner. And sometimes I heard so many things like, when wife is not there and like having a conversation with the sister-in-law, I mean wife's sister and the brother-in-law, they talk, they roam around, and in certain point they get interested to each other. And the one who is unaware, the own sister, she feel betrayed, and her relationship get haram after a while because they having relationship. And same thing with, like, husband's brother, you have to be more careful. You can't spend hours and hours talking to them. They are non-mahram, even for the cousins. Now remember, this is something that, you know, we have to understand. A man can only converse with a woman like this if she allows, like, exception, like two men, two women, they are more than one, and there is like some meeting is going on, but they are not one to one, others are also there. When we go for attending some kind of lecture, we are separated, like, even though there is no separate barrier, but we sit separately and we listen to the lecture. Even if we have question, we ask it, right? but we are not talking to them one to one. How we attend our lectures when we were in college, or still when we are learning that Islamic studies and so on. So many other brothers and sisters are there, and we are covered. Sisters are covered, and their face also covered, and some sisters they even cover their hands too. So in the limits, it's allowed. Like publicly, you can ask question, you can learn. There is nothing wrong in learning, not one to one. Even some sisters they ask me this question: can we learn from Maulvi Saab one to one, sister alone, brother alone? No, he is very old. So what? He's a man, and you are a woman. You are alone. Who is the third one? Shaitan. So look for a sister who can teach you. For boys, look for a brother. Otherwise, if you have more kids, they can do it together. So there's no issue. So you have to be careful in this matter. Abdullah bin Amr ibn al-As reported that Prophet ﷺ said, "The world is but a quick passing enjoyment," meaning every enjoyment in this life will pass very quickly. There's nothing that comes and you begin to enjoy it and it says, no, you enjoy it very soon, it goes away. This is true with every blessing in this world. And the best enjoyment of this world is a pious and virtuous woman. Pious and virtuous woman and pious and virtuous spouse, companion. Why? Because when two have Iman in Allah and two have come together in faith, come together in bond of marriage, then both will be a source of comfort for one another, a source of strengthening one another, helping each other in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see over here that marriage is something that has been given a lot of importance. Marriage is something that is encouraged in the right way. Muhsanatin ghaira musafihatin, not taking secret lovers, but rather taking other person as a spouse through the sacred bond of marriage. In Hadith, we learn that were a man to be stuck with an iron hammer on his head, a person, if he would be stuck with the iron hammer on his head, then what would be better than touching a woman who is not permissible to him? Because sometimes in this love, in so-called love, what happens? Many limits are crossed. Initially, two sits on the table, they hold hands, then this lead from one step to another, ending up in haram. Prophet ﷺ said, were a person to be stuck with an iron hammer on his head. Iron hammer, have you seen it? How heavy it is. If a person is stuck with that, that would be better than touching the hand of a non-mahram, of course. The exceptional situation, state of emergency, for example, in case of health issues, it's a different situation, right? You don't have that lust or astaghfirullah, any such thing. You went to doctor and somebody is in emergency, doesn't matter, right? But they are like, many male to male, doctor, female to female. But in case of emergency, it happens and it has the allowance. Yuridullaha liyubayyina lakum. Allah wants to make clear to lawful from the unlawful and give you to the good practice of those before you and to accept your repentance. And Allah is knowing and wise. And Allah wants to accept your repentance. But those who follow their passions want you to digress into a great deviation. They say there is no need for marriage. Yuridullaha an yukhaffafa ankum. Allah wants to lighten for you your difficulties. This is why He has told you to get married. And mankind was created weak. Khuliqal insana da'ifa. So no one can say that, oh, I don't need to get married. No. Marriage is, closing all the avenues of haram. Oh, you have believed, do not consume one another's wealth unjustly. Now the topic changes here. The other person's property, what belongs to another person, must only be taken how? By their approval, by their concern. If a person take it unjustly, zulm, then this is something that is forbidden. How is it that a person could take another person's property unjustly? Through theft. by stealing, riba, demanding that interest be paid, or by force, taking somebody else's thing by forcing, snatching. Remember, property of another is haram upon you. It is forbidden upon us, and we cannot take something that does not belong to us, even if it be very, very small. We can only take it when the owner okay with us taking it. They allow us, they approve of it. إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم, but only in lawful business by mutual consent. Meaning, if the other allows you to take something of this, then it is permissible for you to take. Otherwise, it is not. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever takes a morsel of food belonging to another believer without his consent, then Allah will feed him its equivalent from hellfire. And whoever wears the clothes of a Muslim without his consent, then Allah will clothe him with its equivalent of hellfire, nar. And this is something that we should all be very careful about. How often is that at masjid shoes are stolen, jackets are stolen? How often is that people's sweaters are taken away, or their food or their bag or whatever they had, all of a sudden it's disappeared? I'm talking about not in just US and Canada. It doesn't happen here much. I think rarely it happens here, but in overseas, in Asian countries, it's quite normal there. So many times this has happened that people have complained, it's gone. So why is it? Are they coming for the masjid? What they are doing? This is so bad. Prophet ﷺ said, even if it's a morsel of food, imagine one bite of a food. If it is taken without approval of the other person, then Allah will give its equivalent from hellfire. And if a person wears another person's clothes, imagine a jacket, hijab, abaya, slippers, whatever it may be, if a person wears another person's without asking, without taking the permission, that's not allowed, and which lead him to the hellfire. That's the punishment. Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will clothe him with its equivalent from hellfire. So this is something serious. We must remind our children, family, this hadith. Warn them, because many times, you know, children, they are very innocent. They don't realize it. By mistake, they pick it up. They never want to do it deliberately. So Ramadan is coming, almost there. So what we should do? Yeah, we have to remind ourselves all these things. And do not kill yourself. Means do not commit suicide or do not kill one another. Ourself also means your own Muslim brother or sister. Why? Because Muslim are like one body. So do not kill each other or do literally kill yourself, because suicide is something that is haram. Indeed, Allah is to you ever merciful. So accept His command. He created you. He loves you. He is merciful towards you. So whatever He has decreed for you, that is best for you. Because sometimes what happens, a person gets fed up with the difficulties, with the trials that he is going through. He wants to kill himself. He wants to bring an end of his life. But what does Allah says? La taqtulu anfusakum. Do not kill yourself. We think that if we are going to take our life away, we are being merciful to ourselves. Who is in fact merciful to us? Allah. La yukallifullaha nafsan illa wus'aha. If He is making us go through some pain, through some trial, some difficulty, it is for the purpose of cleaning and purifying us, so that we get more reward in the hereafter, so that we turn into Allah. We think about Him and we find Him, we began to worship Him. There's a reason behind trials, but what happens? And we find Him and we begin to worship Him. There's a reason behind it. What happens? A person thinks, oh, the trials, test, pain, difficulty has to get out of them, and he hastens and kill himself or herself. This is haram. Prophet ﷺ said, a person belonging to the people of the past suffered from a boil, meaning like a boil on the skin when it is pained him. When it is bothered him a lot, the pain becomes unbearable. He draw out an arrow from the quiver and pierce it. And when he pierced it, the bleeding did not stop until he died. He did not intend to kill himself, or perhaps he did, Allahu Alam. He had something he should not have done. He hurt his own body. He pierced his own body with an arrow, because of which he bled so much he died finally. So forbade his entrance into Jannah. Imagine, a whole life of work is gone waste. Why? Because the person was hasty, just querying the boil. Prophet ﷺ said, whoever kill himself with an instrument of iron, he will come on the day of judgment with his iron in his hand to continually stab himself in his stomach. Within it, in the fire of Jahannam, dwelling in that state eternally. Whoever kills himself with the poison, then his poison will be in his hand to continually take it in the fire of Jahannam, dwelling in that state eternally. So it is extreme foolishness to kill oneself, because life is only one time blessing. Once we leave, we are not coming back to this world. There is no return to this world after departure. And this life must be valued. It is only Allah who gives life, who gives death. We are no one to give ourselves death, to cause ourselves to die. We are no one to kill ourselves. We don't have that permission. And whoever does that in aggression and injustice, then we will drive him into fire, and that for Allah is always easy. If you avoid the major sin, this is very important. Surah An-Nisa number 31. If you avoid major sin, which you are forbidden, we will remove from you your lesser sins and admit you to a noble entrance into a paradise. So we see that it is necessary that we avoid major sins. Why? So that Allah will forgive us our minor sins. Minor sins, do they happen very easily, very frequently, but major sins, they are more noticeable. So we have been given a very important guideline over here, that avoid major sins so that your minor sins will also be forgiven. Now the question is, what are major sins? There are many. Among them, the worst of all major sin, the most serious of all major sin is shirk. Shirk is zulmun azim, associating partners with Allah, the magic, qatl, killing a person, an innocent person, disobeying one's parents, consuming interest, also discrediting the sanctity of the Kaaba. Likewise, withholding water. You have extra water. If a person has extra water, he's on journey, somebody is thirsty. They ask him for some water, he does not give it, withholding extra water. This is also a major sin. We think perhaps those people who travel in desert, this applies to them. No. How about at home? When you have a glass of water or a jug of water upstairs in your room and you want to furnish it, or you are afraid that if somebody else will come and drink, then it will be get finished. So you don't let them have it. You don't give them permission to drink it. This is also withholding extra water. This can happen even in our house, with our own children, with our own husband, and this is something that we need to be very careful about. And drinking alcohol, this is also a major sin. Learning and practicing magic and falsely accusing someone who is innocent. There are Example of major sin, they must be avoided so that Allah will forgive us our minor sins. And here, this ayah number 31, it's so important. We have to understand this. Surah An-Nisa, when we talk about major sins in Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 31, there are the things which we can avoid. Inna tajtanibu kabairal man tunhuna anhu nukaffir ankum sayyatikum wa nudkhil mudkhalan karima. If you abstain from major sins out of what you have been forbidden from, we shall write off your minor sins and shall admit you to a noble entrance. And in ayah number 32, and do not wish for that by which Allah has made some of you exceed others. Because Allah has not created all people equal. He has not made us all the same. No, He has given preference to each person in one way or other. What one person has been given, the other has not been given. A woman can give birth. Can a man give birth? Can he be bear children? No, he cannot. So he so should he be striving to do what women can do? No, it would be foolishness. Likewise, we see that men have been given certain roles to play, certain strengths, certain abilities, and that is something that women don't need to run after. And this is not just something between men and women, but overall in general. Each person has his strength, he has weaknesses. What is it that we need to focus on? The strength that Allah has equipped us with, and we should not wish for that which Allah has given to the other people. For men is a share of what they have earned, and for women is a share of what they have earned. How fair is our religion? There's no bias just because of gender. No person will get what they have striven for. A man will get what he strive for, and woman will get what she strive for. And ask Allah of His bounty. Meaning, when you see something with the other that you want, but then instead of being envious, what is it that you should do? Each time, Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlik. Oh Allah, I ask you of your bounty, your fadl. I ask you of your favors, so give me also. Just as Zakaria al-Islam, he saw Maryam al-Islam with fruits, what he did. Did he become jealous over there? Did he feel weak in his heart and bad in the heart? No. Immediately, right there and then, he made dua. Oh Allah, give me righteous child, give me a good child. And Allah accepted this dua. Indeed, Allah is ever all things knowing. He knows the difference between man and woman. He has created both of them differently. Now, in the following ayah, the theme of this ayahs is generally about men and women married. So this is why it's necessary that we reflect on this matter, how Allah has created men differently and women differently. Why? Not because one is better than other, but so that both may complement each other. Both have been created differently with different strengths, ability. Why? Not so that they compete with one another, try to imitate one another, but that both of them do their best and bring the best in the society. Remember that a woman's perfection is not in being like a man. Her perfection, her excellence, her virtue is in what? Her connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because many of us have forgotten this. We think that if I want to be best, I want to go further in life, then I have to compete with men. I have to do what they have done. If my brother is doing, I have to do it. If my husband is doing, I have to do it. If he travels for a weekend, you know what? Let me also do the same thing. Leave my family. I'm going to travel. I'm going to be outside on the weekends. No. Each person has a different role to play. Each person has different responsibility. Remember, what matters most in our position near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there could be a man and woman who are married, but because of what they do, one person, his status could be greater in the sight of Allah compared to the other, not because of the gender, but because of what they have done. Now, take the example of Asiya al-Islam and Firon. Asiya al-Islam, who will she be? She will be among the leader of the women in Jannah. Why? Because of our Iman. Take her husband Firon, who will be a leader of the people in hellfire. Why? Because of kufr. So it's not about that in marriage. A man will always be better in every respect. No, he has been given certain rights, certain obligations, certain status, but that is just to make the marriage work. That is just to maintain the family, to look after the family, to run the family in most effective way. But a woman, her perfection, her excellence, her virtue is that in her servitude to their Lord. So remember, Inna Allah kana bikulli shayin alima. Indeed, is of Allah all things knowing. So this was ayah number 32, Suratul Nisa. Suratul Nisa, ayah number 33. Walikulli jalna mawaliya. And for all we have made heirs to what is left by parents and relatives. Meaning, for each person who dies, he leaves behind heirs. And who are those heirs? Those heirs whom Allah has appointed. Why is it that Allah has decided this law? Who should be their heir? What should he get? How much should he get? Why? So that wealth may be divided in society correctly. Because if was left to us, then what would we do? We would give our all of our wealth to just one individual, and this would create a lot of disharmony, lot of difficulties in the society. So when Allah has taken this matter in his hand, an inheritance must be divided according to a specific way, to specific aid. This is to ensure that wealth is distributed correctly in society. And to those whom your oath have bound to you, give them their share. Indeed, Allah is ever over all things a witness. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Men are in charge of women. They are qawwam of the women. What does it mean by this? That men are in charge of women. Qawwam is a maintainer. So who is made responsible? Who has been given the authority? Authority for what purpose? So that he may manage, he may look after the affairs of those who are under him. He may look after the welfare, overall well-being, the needs of those who are under him. So in a marriage, who is it that has been given authority? Who is it that has been giving this responsibility? It is the man, because two people cannot be in charge. If two people are in charge, if both have equal authority, then what will happen? Both will constantly be at odds against each other. So we see this, that even in an organization, even in a group of 5 people, 10 people, what is it necessary? One man is a leader. One person who has right to say, okay, we are going to do this, or okay, we are not going to do this. One person whose word will be accepted as final, because when there are 2, 3 people who have equal authority over a matter, then what happens? Things get lost. One person thinks the other will do it, then what happens? The other thinks that the first will do it. But the one thinks that she should do it. She thinks so he should be doing it. Back and forth, and like this, the family will be neglected. Like this, the children will be neglected. The affairs of the family, they will not be taken care of properly. So Allah in his mercy, what has he done? He has decided that in a marriage, always the qawwam will be who? The husband. Even though if he's not working. Yes. If he's not working, even if he's bringing less money compared to wife, or no money, zero money, even if he's less educated. Why? Because each marriage is different. If this decision is left to us, that in a marriage the two decided who the qawwam is going to be, they are never going to be able to decide who the qawwam should be. Isn't that so? That war, then when it is left to people, okay, you choose a leader, it's very difficult for them to come up with one leader. And even when the leaders is chosen, then what happened? The rest of the people say, oh, this was unfair. Like today, even people say that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he comes, when he has chosen as Khalifa, this was a conspiracy that people had against Ali radiallahu anhu. Ali radiallahu anhu was busy with the burial of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these Sahaba they went and they conspired among themselves, and because they want to deprive Ali radiallahu anhu of Khalifa, so they just appointed Abu Bakr as Khalifa. This is the misconception they have. The point that I'm making here is that if Allah left this matter to us, you decide that in a marriage who the Khawam should be, what would happen? Firstly, we would never come to decision. Secondly, even if we had come to decision, the people would never be happy. So just as when it comes to the law of inheritance, likewise in a family, who should be in charge, Allah has taken this matter in this hand. He has decided that man will be Khawam, and that's the reason behind that. What is the reason? Bima faddalallahu ba'duhum ala ba'd. Why? Because Allah has given one preference over the other, meaning Allah has given men something that a woman has not been given. What is that thing? It is, you can say, the strength, but it is the first and foremost ego in a positive way, not in a negative way. Men have ego. I'm not saying that in a bad way, not arrogant and pride, but they have this natural desire to want to feel important. This is something that is not just something that is observed, but it is something that is proven by research also. Then, when it comes to a man, what they want in a relationship is that they should be appreciated, they should be looked up to, they should be respected. So, when they have been given this, it's in their fitra. Like people who are born leaders, if you give them authority, if you give them leadership, some decision power, even if it's very little, what will happen? They will be happy. Think about a classroom, 20 children. One child doesn't listen at all. What happens? The teacher says to the child, okay, you have to take this sheet to the office. You have to do this. You have given the task. All of a sudden, that child is behaving so well. Why? Because he has been given a task. You made him feel important. You have given authority. He feel nice about it. So men have been given this natural quality in them. So quality, because it's a quality, it's not something negative. Please take out that negative thing. Because for a leader, it's very necessary that they feel like a leader. They want to be a leader. So the men have been given this preference over women in this respect. And this is why they must be Khawwam. And secondly, the other reason why they must be Khawwam is because they spend their wealth. Because from the time of marriage onwards, what is the man doing? Spending. At the time of marriage, he is given the woman meher, and then afterwards, constantly spending on her. Financial obligation has been placed on the shoulder of men. So this is why the man is who Qawwam. Allah says, فَالسَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهُ. So righteous women, who are they? They are devotedly obedient. Devotedly obedient to who? Their husband, to their, uh, you know, when we call about husband, Imara. Why? Because they accept the Imara, the leader that Allah has appointed over them. So whatever the leader says to them, they do it as long as it's something maruf. It is something acceptable in the religion, meaning where a husband will tell the wife to do something that is contrary to the law of Allah, then does a woman have to obey him? No, she should not obey him. But when it comes to maruf, when it comes to acceptable matter, then what should a woman do? She should be khanitat. Many times, when husband says not to wear hijab, not to pray, you don't have to approve that because it is again the Sharia. First, we will listen to Allah, then Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then comes the husband, respecting it. But in the Sharia, you can't do that. You have to pray, you have to cover yourself because you are responsible. Allah will ask you. Now, This is the description of a righteous woman that Allah is given there as-salihat. Who are they? First and foremost, qanitat, obedient. And obedient means showing respect. Showing respect, accepting the authority, the superiority that Allah has given to husband. So those of us who are married, let's remember to do this. And those who are not married, yet then keep this in mind that the first and foremost obligation on a woman is what? That she should be dutiful, obedient to her husband. And obedient must come with respect. Why? Because if a person is obeying but they are disrespecting with their attitude, with their eyes, their body language, to their words, then it's not true obedience. That's not respect. And we see that a man, when he is respected by his wife, then what will happen? He feel like he's in charge. When he is made to feel in charge, then what will happen? He will take care of wife even more. He will please her and she will please him. And it's both sided now. And we see that it goes into such a beautiful cycle. The wife respecting the husband taking care of the wife. But what we do, that we demand that husband should take care of us, then we will respect them. But the fact is, the husband cannot take care of wife until and unless she will show some level of respect. Because what happens is that when the man is disrespected in the house, he's always looked down. He treated like a child. He's treated like a servant. He's yelled at, rebuked. He's insulted before the family. He's even insulted before children. What happens? When he does not find peace and comfort in the house, he avoids being with the family. You might have noticed some people, they are always outside, especially on weekends, or they look for television or they go out. They want to avoid the family. Why? Because there is no respect and peace in the family. So what will bring a husband and wife together in what? Mutual respect for each other. If other does not respect, let us begin respecting our husband. Because remember that the respect that we get from other people is always in our hand. It is always in our control. Why? Because the way we deal with others, that is exactly how they deal with us. If we treat others respectfully, they will also treat us respectfully. If they are not respecting, make dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day He will respect you. Even children, when they are dealt with respectfully, they will show respect. Even though sometimes, children, they have changes because of, growing age or certain kind of things they are going through, then also respect them. They will learn respect from you. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ, they are obedient, and حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهُ, they are hafizat, guarding in their husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. Prophet ﷺ said, the best of women is she who pleases you when you look at her, obeys you when you order her, and guards you in your absence what is due to you of her and your wealth. So this is how we have to become pleasing to the husband, that when he sees, then he becomes happy. When he instructs, then without argument, without ifs and buts, take it and do it. Prophet ﷺ said, Allah does not even look at the woman who does not thank her husband. Why? She cannot be free of need of him, isn't it? So she cannot be free of need of him. Anytime you're feeling angry with your husband, just look around yourself, look around your house, check all the things. For every little petty thing, you need your husband help, and you need your husband mashwara, like, you talk to him. Oh, shall I do this? Shall I don't? If you're not, talk to him. Give him respect. Give him honor. Even though if he's not working, still he's qawwam. Even if he is, some sisters, they think they are more good looking than to their husband. How can you think that way? Allah has given face to everyone and everyone is beautiful. And how could you say that? And they say, like, we don't want to look at our husband, their face is so and so. How could you say that? Fear Allah, wattaqullaha. How could you do that? Allah has made everyone beautiful. Don't say that. Don't use such words. Even their own children, they say our dad is not good looking. Auzu billah. How could you say that? And sometimes other way around. They talk about their mother, or the husband talks about their wives, their beauty, and they are not beautiful, so on and so forth. No, never ever do that. Be thankful. Appreciate your husband, appreciate your children, and be content what you have been given. Prophet ﷺ said, the woman who does not thank her husband, Allah does not even look at her, while she cannot be free of need of him. Asma radiallahu anha said, Prophet ﷺ passed by me. I was among some of my, friends. She was sitting with some of her friends, girls, and what happened? The Prophet ﷺ, he passed by, greeted, and he said, beware of ingratitude of those who are with blessing. She said, Ya Rasulullah Sallallahu, what is meant by ingratitude of those people who are blessing? He said, perhaps one of you stays with her parents, unmarried, for a long time. Then Allah gives her a husband through whom she even gets children. Then one day she gets angry with him and becomes very ungrateful, saying that I have never seen anything good in my life. You know, so that's how she becomes ungrateful, so angry that she says, I have never seen anything good in you, really is the reason why, so on and so forth. This reason, that reason, complain and complain. The number one thing we need to do after obedience is gratitude. Show gratitude for husband, for the gifts that brings home, for the money he brings home. Just think about it, how difficult it must be for a woman that so many hours, for a man, so many hours he spent working, and after coming home, still he helps the children and wife, taking care and keeping the good mood. And sometimes women's mood are bad and they have the reason, oh, because of my period, my mood is not good, because I had a hectic day, because of this, because of that. How could you be grateful to Allah and to husband, to children? Take out all the negative things. Take out all the negative things. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them. If they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally lightly strike them. Why? In order to discipline them. But if they obey, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. So fear Him, because He is greater than you. He has more authority than you. He is going to question you. So what we learn from this ayah is about ourselves, that we have to show respect, gratitude to our husbands. Now, the last part of the ayah, many women have a problem with this. The fact is that why should we let a marriage go this way in the first place? Say, inshallah, I will never show nushuz to my husband. Nushuz is what? Disobedience to the husband, that he becomes angry with the wife. Be obedient, be grateful, be thankful, have a good relationship, and something happens, overlook it. Don't do nushuz. Nushuz is like, making husband angry with your bad words, with your bad behavior. Never ever do that. It's a sin. If you do that, like, bad behavior, bad slang, and sometimes if you are doing fahisha, you are having relationship or a friendship with any other person, then they will separate the bed and they can reprimand lightly. But if you dissension between the two, meaning the man and woman are going apart from each other despite being married because they have so many differences, so many arguments, then what should be done? Send an arbitrator from his family and an arbitrator from her family, meaning someone else now to do the discussion. Because when two people are angry, they don't even want to look at each other. If they both desire reconciliation, Allah will cause it between them. Indeed, Allah is ever knowing and acquainted with all things. So, the person who will reconcile it. وَعَبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Remember your main goal in life. What is the purpose in life? That you worship Allah, associate nothing with Him. To parents do good, and to relatives, orphans, needy, near neighbor, near neighbor, father, away, the companion at your side. Look at the companion on your side, the person sitting next to you. Who are they? Your neighbor. What does Allah says? Ahsan with them. So, what kind of ihsan? Do good. Sometimes we go in masjid and we sit with them and we don't even, do salam. Be good to them. And especially when they are in the line standing for the salah, you feel bad if they want to correct the line, especially in the rows, you want to have the straight row. The neighbor farther away, the companion at your side, the traveler, and those whom your right hand possess. These are all huququl ibad, the rights of the creation, the rights of servants of Allah. Do good to all, even when someone is not good. Still be good to them because this is ihsan. Indeed, Allah does not like those who are self-deluding and boastful, meaning people who think highly of themselves, who think they are best, and as a result, they belittle others. They don't even look at the person sitting next to them. Think about it. We don't even acknowledge the person sitting next to us, then what does it mean? That we haven't even noticed. Why? Because we are lost in ourselves. Like, there can be exceptions, especially when you go for Friday sermon and you don't want to, because you don't want to have any kind of talk, because you want to hear to the Friday sermon. That's fine. But apart from that, so Allah does not like people who are muhtalan faqura. And such people are not even liked by who? Other people. Remember, the one who is disliked by Allah. It can never be liked by people either. The one who is disliked by Allah, then people can also not like him. Who are such people? Who are proud, boastful, self-deluding, who are stingy and enjoying upon other people's stinginess. Means they withhold what they have and they also tell others to be stingy. They don't spend themselves, they discourage others from spending in the way of Allah. They conceal what Allah has given them of His bounty. They don't let anyone find out about the good they have. Why? Out of fear that others might ask, and we have prepared for the disbeliever. Alhamdulillah, humiliating punishment. And those who spend their wealth to be seen by people, meaning when it comes to spending in Allah's way, what is their attitude? They are stingy. When it comes to spending on a D person, again they are stingy. They hide what they have. They don't show their food. They don't show their money. They don't show what in their house. Why? Out of fear that somebody might ask. They hide it. They keep it secret. When there is a chance to show off, then they spend generously. Meaning, when there is a chance to show to the people, yeah, I got a lot of money, then yes, there will be a lot of expenditure, like for example, a wedding. When it comes to spending on a good cause and charitable cause, gift to those who are truly in need, then no, I don't have enough. Things are so tough, things are so expensively, the rent is so much, and mortgage, high bills, children, schooling, and so on and so forth. Think about the kind of money we spend on our clothes, especially being a woman, how much we spend. Think about it. So, spending on show off is not like impressing others, impressing just to uh, impress others. No. Do it for yourself. Those who spend their wealth only to be seen by whom? By the people. They believe not in Allah, not in the last day. Because if they truly believe in Allah and last day, but their money would be going to where? Investing in home of the Akhirah, hereafter, not for showing off. And he to whom shaitan is a companion, then evil is he a companion. Now remember, shirk khafi is hidden shirk. When a person is spending to be appraised by people, to be seen by people, this is a shirk khafi. When a person gives, he gives more. Why? Because people are watching. Likewise, when a person is performing ibadah, he performs more ibadah. Why? Because people are watching. Prophet ﷺ said, he who lets the people hear of his good deed intentionally to win their praise, then Allah will let the people know of his real intention on the day of judgment. So may Allah save us all from such kind of things. So here in ayah number 39, Surah An-Nisa, and what harm would come upon them if they believe in Allah and the last day and spend out what Allah has provided for them sincerely for His sake, then what would they lose? They would not lose anything. Allah is ever about the knowing. Inna Allah la yazlimu misqala zarra. Indeed, Allah does not do injustice even as much as atoms weight. While if there is a good deed, He multiplies and gives from Himself a great reward. If a person gives even a little bit in charity, but with the sincerity, then Allah is so generous that He multiplies the reward. So why should we hesitate in giving more in His cause? Why not? Think about it. What we spend on the things of this world, instantly what happens the moment they fall in our hands, the value of these things instantly reduce. You buy so many things. Once you buy, that's it, it's done. The world is such that the more you spend, the more you lose. But if you give in the way of akhirah, even a zarra, small speck, it will multiply. وَيُؤْتِ مَن لَدُنْهُ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا, and He will give from Himself a great reward. So why should we not give to Him what is most beloved to us when He will multiply the reward many times? Subhanallah. This was the Surah An-Nisa ayah number 40. Inshallah, rest will continue in the next class. Jazakallah khairan kaseera.